All right, friends, welcome back. It's Jonathan, head coach of the right sales team at Russell Real Estate Services, coming back at you this week to talk about some real estate stuff. Hey, before we really get into it, a couple things I wanted to talk about. First and foremost, 2 weeks ago, my show was about the Lorain County Strategic Action Plan, and I told you guys that I would follow up as things progress there. So take a look. They just released the dates for the focus group. So let me share my screen. I'll do this briefly so that you can see this here. And okay. Oh, I messed that up. There we go. There we go. Okay. So here we go. Focus groups for the Lorain County Strategic Action Plan. Here is the link, the actual hyperlink, the URL. I will put that in a banner when we leave this page, just so you could copy it real quick or jot it down, whatever. But again, focus groups for the Lorain County Strategic Action Plan. If you want to go sit and be a part of this and contribute to this planning that's going on, that the county officials and the way they plan for development, the way they plan on the monies that they're going to go after from the state and feds are going to be determined by this activity here. So you see there February 7th and 8th, and down here at the bottom of the page is where you can sign up for these various sessions: government services, workforce, countywide, blah, blah, blah. Here's the stuff. This is the 2 dates, the 7th and the 8th. These are the focus groups. These are the focus group topics: government services, workforce, countywide collaboration, industry, business and development, education, transportation, housing, and infrastructure. You can register here. All right, very good. So here is that link down here. I just put this banner up. That is the link to go register or get more information about the focus groups for the Lorain County Strategic Action Plan. All right, last week I went to go visit a client of mine. I was over the weekend, actually. Drop off a closing gift, say hello, see them in their new place that they had just bought. And they told me this crazy story about how their insurance company put the screws to them and were forcing them to buy a new roof, and it just didn't sit well with me. So I started to dig in. I wanted to find some information about this and make some sense out of it. I called on my insurance agent. His name is Tony Larissa. And I had a conversation with him about what exactly was going on with these folks and their home insurance policy and how it might affect other consumers. Okay, so I'm going to take this banner down for the Strategic Action Plan focus groups. I'm going to put Tony's information up here because I screwed up. I'm going to broadcast a pre-recording that we did earlier in the week, and while the banner and his contact information gets showed in that video, it happens later on, and it should have been up there the entire time. So while we go through our stats and stuff like that, I'm going to leave Tony's information up here, record it. The guy's a true pro, great person. If you're looking for a second estimate or whatever, give this guy a ring. So at any rate, as we always begin, let's look at statistics in real estate for the last week. Okay, here we go. So here we are, episode 24. This past week, there were 47 closings, 47 home sales in the county. There's currently 385 houses for sale in the county. Inventory stayed steady for about the past month. Makes sense through the holidays. You can see the last two weeks of the month of the year, 390 and 386. As we walk into the new year, we're looking at 382. Currently 385 homes on the market. For this past week, again, 47 sales. The median square foot home was $1,560. The median value was $209,000. That stayed somewhat consistent you can see it's probably about 2.25 where we stick around for our average median home value. All right. Median square foot, $142.70 per square foot over this past week of sales. Again, that's something that's a sticky number right there. We're staying right about there. 140 to 145 is our median square foot value here in the county. The lowest price home sold this past week was $25,000 in Lorain, and the high price was $700,000 in Avon Lake. That was a beautiful brand new construction, 3,300 square foot colonial in the new Port West development right there off Walker Road. There was only one picture, and just like the theme has been the past couple weeks, it looks the same as the other new construction homes that I've showed you, so we're not going to bother with that. The current sale price to list price ratio, 99%. So you can see how our year ended off with these 98s, these 99s. So it has been 12 weeks in a row. Well, one out of the last 12 weeks, we've seen above 100%. But for the past 3 months, we've stayed right there, 98 and 99. So home values are not moving at all. They've flatlined. They are not increasing. They're not decreasing. We found equilibrium between supply and demand, and home prices are staying put. Average days on market this past week was 40. Once again, the days on market is inclusive of the contingency period. So you put your house up for sale, you accept an offer, and the house, the listing that gets moved into a contingent status. So I pulled these stats from the MLS, and with our MLS, even if you move it into the contingency period, where it's contingent upon inspections and appraisals, it is considered still on the market, right? So that amount of time includes that contingency period, which obviously there can be a huge range from 7 days to 3 weeks. Once you pass the contingency period, then it gets put into a pending status, then it comes off the market. So that number is representative of the time since from listing through the contingency period, and then when it goes into a pending status, it comes off the market. Okay, the current interest rate for a 30-year conventional note is 6.72%. All right, so we've kind of hovered in this area here, right, for about a month. 6.62 was the lowest we got, but it hasn't really changed much. It got a touch over 6 3/4 or a touch below it this week. So, we're talking about this number here, the sale price to list price ratio, and how it's remained very static over the last 3 months. If that interest rate goes down, I don't think we see static anymore. As you can see, as we showed you earlier, the supply number, right? This number of homes on the market, it's not moving. It's not going up, and it will need to go up drastically for home prices and values to come down. However, if this interest rate comes down significantly, the demand side of that equation, it increases, and that equilibrium tips back in favor of the seller, and we will probably see the sale price to list price ratio tick back up above 100%. But for now, we found equilibrium. Home prices are staying put. So as we see these rates come down and home prices stay put, not a bad time to buy or sell for that matter. Very good. That is our statistics for this past week of home sales. And let's jump into it. Here is my conversation earlier in the week with Tony Larizza. Very good. All right. I would like to welcome to Real Estate Bites, Mr. Tony Larizza. How are you doing today, Tony?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. So Tony is, full disclosure, Tony is my insurance agent. Tony has been doing this for 24 years, is it?
Yeah, I'll be 25 in May.
25 years almost. Tony is part of a group in Northern Ohio. What's the name of the group, Tony?
It's called SIA Northern Ohio, and it's a group of several different insurance agencies around Northern Ohio.
And you are currently ranked number 2 out of 64, from what I gather.
Yes, yeah, we've steadily climbed every year for the last 5 years.
Congratulations, man! And in addition to that, you got hundreds of 5-star reviews on Google, and above all of that, Tony's just a great dude. So super happy to have you on here, man.
Thank you.
And listen, I wanted to bring you on because I heard a crazy story recently from one of my clients in regards to their home insurance and what had happened. But before we jump into that story, I wanted to ask you about this. So just over this past fall, my insurance premium went up nearly 40%. I haven't talked to everybody I know about it, but all of those who I do know that I talked about it have seen similar sort of increases in their insurance premiums. What's going on, man?
There's a couple different things going on. One, weather-related incidents, not just in Ohio. I'm talking countrywide. People don't realize when there's a hurricane that hits Florida, it's going to affect all of us, not just Florida. Now, obviously, the ones in Florida that have claims are going to be affected worse than us, but it affects everybody. And even in Ohio, the past, I would say 6 months. I know in August we had a really good storm where it knocked everyone's power out. I had several water backup claims because the sump pumps weren't working. That was over $1 billion claim just on that one. Wow. There's just a bunch of stuff going on weather related in the last 6 to 12 months. So
hurricanes come ripping through Florida, and prairie ranchers in South Dakota are getting their premiums raised on them.
Exactly. Yeah. Like that's the whole purpose. I mean, that's the whole way insurance works is we're all sharing in the cost. So even though it's not happening to you directly, it's still going to affect the rates. And here's a stat that I heard that I've never heard in 24 years of doing this. Right now, for every $1,000 the insurance companies are taking in, they're paying out $1,073.
Yikes.
So they can't continue to keep paying out more than they're bringing in because they won't be able to pay claims. I mean, I just heard this yesterday. I've heard a couple of companies dipping into their savings to pay out claims because there's been so many in the last few years.
That's crazy. And if that trend continues, then us consumers are likely to see yet another premium increase.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it used to be, I would see like one premium increase a year, and like most of the companies had a specific date that they would look at rates. And now I'm getting 3 or 4 in a year of rate increases, which has never happened.
And when's the last time you saw a premium increase by 40%?
Never. And this is the worst I've ever seen it. I mean, I hate to say that, but I mean, people will call and ask me to shop out their account, which I'm glad to do, but there's not a whole lot of options out there left for me to go anywhere else because they're all pretty much doing the same thing. They're also what's that?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
The other thing I'm seeing a lot of is companies now are requiring a minimum deductible of $2,500, which the minimum deductible has been $1,000 for, I'd say, the last 5 to 10 years. Now the minimum most of these companies are allowing you to write is $2,500. And they're requiring a separate wind and hail deductible of a percentage, which is usually 1%. So if you've got a $500,000 house, you've got a $5,000 wind and hail deductible mandatory.
Wow. Okay. Those are big changes.
Yeah. I mean, a lot, like not every company is doing it yet, but I'm seeing more and more companies go that direction. So I think eventually they're all going to do it.
I was one of those guys who asked you to shop out my insurance rate, and I ended up sticking with the same policy I had because there were not any better options.
Yeah, I've been telling people a lot the last few months now that I see how this is affecting everybody. That first of all, I wouldn't shop your account midterm. I'd definitely do, if you're going to do it on the renewal, because then you're going to see what the renewal rate's going to be. Don't do it midterm because most likely you got a better rate now than you're going to have at the next renewal.
Okay, that's great information.
Yeah, and then the other thing is, like I said, when the only other option I have a lot of times is just increasing your deductible or reducing coverage, which I don't like to do, but I understand, it's money's tight and people are looking for an option to get their rate down. So that's pretty much all I got is higher deductible and removing some coverage or decreasing some coverage.
So you're an insider, man. Have you heard coming down the pipeline of any more increases that we, the consuming public, should expect?
Not, and it's weird because again, when they used to do these rate increases, they would give you like, hey, 30 days, we're going to do this rate increase. And, anything you got in the pipeline, you better get issued before those 30 days are going to hit with the increase. Now, literally, I will get told a day or two before the rate increase happens. So it's really hard when I quote somebody, and usually those quotes have been good for 30 days, and now they're good for 2 days if I'm lucky. So I haven't heard anything more recently about anything coming up, but I have heard that we're going to be in this probably for at least another year of this.
Wow. Okay. Well, I appreciate all that, man. So let's kind of jump into this story that prompted this whole conversation between you and I.
Okay.
Recently went and visited a client of mine. I was bringing them closing gifts, and they were telling me that it took them a while to move in their place. They were in no rush. And a couple of weeks after they had purchased their new home and they were moving stuff in, they sat down for a break, opened up a beer, and were kind of hanging out in the living room, shooting the breeze. And they saw this fella walking around outside their property. And so they went out to ask him what he was doing. And he's walking around their house. He's got his selfie stick high up in the air, and he's taking pictures. And he told them that the insurance company had sent him out to take pictures of the roof. And, they didn't think nothing of it, had never encountered this before, and just kind of let him go about his way. And about a week after that, their agent called them and said, hey, I'm not sure what's going on. Did you guys change anything? Because your policy's been canceled. And they were very confused and didn't know why. Well, the next day they received their refund check, Tony. So you know how these insurance companies don't operate that quickly. They don't cancel one day, the check arrives at your door the next. They canceled pretty much as soon as they got those pictures back, right? And whether or not I'm supposed to say names or not, I don't really care. It was State Farm, and State Farm canceled their policy because their roof was shingled with CertainTeed Horizon shingles. CertainTeed is the manufacturer, right? It's the make of the shingle. You can find those at Home Depot, I'm pretty sure. And the actual model of the shingle was the Horizon shingle. And apparently, right now, there's this class action lawsuit going against CertainTeed for this shingle because they are not performing the way they were supposed to. And so without any warning, without any discussion, State Farm canceled these people's policy and basically said, put a new roof on or you don't have a policy with us, and kind of strong-armed them into putting a new roof on. I've given them some names, yours, to shop and see if they can't figure something out there. But nevertheless, have you heard of anything like this before?
I've not heard of that before. I know that you and I talked about it yesterday. Those T shingles like that's a definite no with all my companies. I reached out to several of my companies, and not one of them said they got an issue with that specific shingle.
Yeah. So real quick, what Tony was talking about there, there's a shingle type called a T-lock shingle. And when I was calling around to different companies trying to make some sense of what had happened to my customers and getting their insurance policy, one of the people I talked to said what was probably a T-lock shingle, and those are obsolete. And the reason why you cannot insure a T-lock shingle, right, is because if they're obsolete and no longer manufactured, well, then you can't underwrite a policy for full replacement on a shingle that's no longer manufactured. So the T-lock shingle, which is a real funky looking shingle, do a quick Google search out there in internet land, and you'll see what we're talking about. That is something that cannot be insured. But the CertainTeed shingle, I mean, you stand at the road, it looks like a regular 3-dimensional shingle, right?
Right. I've never asked that question. All I ask is when I'm taking the information is, like, what kind of roof do you have? Like, some people have slate roof, some people have asphalt shingle. That's pretty much all I ask, and I keep going from there. I've never had that come up before.
Have you ever heard of an insurance company sending somebody out post close and transfer of a property to take pictures of a roof or anything like that?
Yeah. So here's how it goes. When I write a new policy, and this is true of every company, they've got 60 days to get off an account if they find an issue. So they'll send inspection companies out there. Some of them have their own company, their own company people go out and do the inspection. Some of them hire an outside, like a third party, to come out and do the inspection. So every company is doing this now. Used to be years ago, only a few companies did it. Now they're all doing it because of the home losses are through the roof. So now they want to make sure they're trying to underwrite it as much as possible. So they'll send somebody out to do outside pictures of the house. They'll do measurements of the house. And what they look for is missing shingles, missing handrails, peeling paint. Those are all things they can get off an account if somebody's got any of those issues. So a lot of times people will ask me, well, why don't they go inspect before you write the policy? Well, they can't. They're not going to inspect every house, especially if they're not writing the insurance. It's too costly. So they do it after the fact, but they've got 60 days to get off of it. And a lot of our companies now, a lot of these inspection companies are looking at, they're using drones to look at your roof. They're looking at Google Earth images to look at your roof. Like other than water backup's normally my number one homeowner's claim. Roof is right behind that. I mean, that's the other big issue. So they're trying anything they can to mitigate these claims.
Wow. So this is what people can expect. You buy a house and you should be expecting that some adjuster shows up and is taking pictures of the exterior of your home. And what was that list that they're looking for again?
So they're looking for missing handrails. If you've got 3 steps or more, they want a handrail. If there's not one there, they're going to make you put one in. They're looking at peeling paint. A lot of people will say to me, what does peeling paint have to do with anything? Lead paint is part of that issue. Kids eating lead paint. But even if it's a newer house, they don't want to see peeling paint. That's a maintenance issue. They want to make sure it's taken care of. Like I said, the roof, they're looking at like missing granules. They're looking at missing shingles. Sometimes I get a house where there's like second story and there's a door out to that second story. They either want it blocked off or they want a handrail around that. They're looking at breeds of dogs. They've always looked at this stuff, but not as strict as they have been in the past year. Like they're looking, basically, I hate to say it, but basically most insurance companies don't want any new business right now. And they're trying to get off the ones that they think could be a potential claim. So that's what's going on in the industry.
I've heard of insurance companies who are simply not even underwriting new home insurance policies at all. Like they refuse to do that business.
Yeah, one of my companies is Safeco, and they're telling us out of every 10 quotes that we submit, they're going to decline 8 of them. And I told you this yesterday. I haven't had an acceptable one with Safeco for months. So it's basically right now it's 10 out of 10 that I'm sending them. They're not taking.
Wow. Okay. What other companies are not underwriting new policies at this time that you're aware of?
Travelers is one that that I've seen a lot of pushback on. So they're any little thing that they find they used to say, okay, you got 30 days to fix this. Now they're saying either you have 30 days to fix it, or they're saying we don't want it at all and we're canceling the policy. So Travelers is one of my bigger companies. They are a good company, but again, they're paying out more than they're taking in. They got to do something to stop it. So that's what they're doing. They're also doing the separate wind and hail deductible now. So I do have a couple of companies that aren't as strict right now. I got into being an independent agent because I want options for people, right? So I still have options. I'm just limited on my options, is what I keep telling people. I still have options more than the bigger companies that you hear about all the time, but I just don't have as many options as I used to just because of the strict underwriting.
So which company, you have a solution for people, right? If they have these certainteed horizon shingles, you got a solution for people.
Yeah, like I said, none of my companies had an issue with those specific shingles. I reached out to several of them yesterday. Not one of them said, "Hey, we won't take this."
Okay, that's excellent. So, what advice would you have for people who are looking to buy, maybe looking to shop a new policy? What advice do you have for people in light of these sorts of developments with home insurance companies really tightening tightening their game because, the costs have gone through the roof for them. All these claims that they're paying out billions and billions of dollars. What advice do you have for the consuming public?
A couple things I would say. First thing is get your quote, get it done as soon as possible. The earlier in the process, the better, because you don't want to be at the last minute getting ready to close, and then one of these companies has changed something on you, and then rate's no longer accurate, or they won't accept your house because of some minor issue. So the earlier in the process, the better to get a quote. Number two, like I said, on existing accounts, I would not move your account midterm. I would do it at renewal. If you're looking to move it, look at renewal, not midterm. The other thing I would say is, make sure those things I mentioned are in order. Make sure there's no missing handrails, and make sure there's no missing paint or peeling paint. Like I mentioned, there's certain dog breeds I don't like. So it's the more you can do up front, the better. You don't want to be there waiting at the last minute to get these quotes and then find out you have no options.
Very good. This is important information, people. Please share this with friends and family, especially those who are looking to get into the market and buy or sell. This is likely to have some effect on people, and there's nothing worse in real estate, man, than surprises, right? Certainly bad surprises that cost you money, if not tens of thousands of dollars. I know for these clients who bought this house and that State Farm canceled on them, they went and got estimates, and it was $23,000 to replace their roof. That is not a small amount of change, and I would say most people that I know could not do that. They could simply not afford to have that repair done. And if you are financing your home, you have to carry an insurance policy. So this is important information to get out there right now. So another insurance question. You're an insurance guy, Tony. Who carries your policy, man?
So I have a company called Selective Insurance, and they were late in the game as far as like taking these rate increases, right? So a lot of these rate increases started, I'd say May, June. I was seeing them mostly back then. Well, then I've since then, Selective's probably had 3 or 4 rate increases since mid last year. And so my renewal is coming up in March. I've got a son that's going to be driving in May. I've already got a 19-year-old in my policy. So I'm scared to death to see what that's going to do. So most likely I will not stay with Selective because they've had 3 rate increases since that point. I'm not saying Selective is a bad company. I'm just saying they were behind everybody else, and now they're catching up.
And if they catch up and go beyond where you're comfortable with, who are you looking at first?
So the one company that I've been doing a lot of business with ever since this started is called Western Reserve Group. They're a small company. They're only based in Ohio and I think Rhode Island or Indiana, maybe it was a smaller state. Those are the only 2 companies states they write in. I'm going to be looking at Western Reserve. So I'm thinking that could be a good option for me, but I'm going to shop at it with everybody just to see what my best option is.
Excellent. Tony, I appreciate it, man. One more question before you go.
Yeah.
The softball season's right around the corner. You've been coaching Vermilion varsity softball for years now. You guys ready?
I'm ready. I was talking to the girls. We've been doing off-season workouts. I'm ready to start. Our first day of tryouts is February 19th. So it's right around the corner. I'm getting geared up for it. I'm tired of just doing workouts with the girls. I'm ready to start getting games in.
That's awesome. God bless you, man. Thank you for coming on, Tony. I really appreciate your time, and this excellent information for the people.
Sure. No problem. Thank you very much.
All right. You have a great day.
You too.
That was my conversation with Mr. Tony LaRizza. Once again, Tony, thank you for coming on, sharing that great information with us. Next week, I got a guest coming on. We're going to be talking about real estate investments, specifically REITs, defining those and the pros and cons of a REIT. We'll also be talking about reinsurance and how that is a market that is worth potentially looking at as an investment. Speaking of real estate investment, hey, look, guys, we have in just a few months a full solar eclipse coming to our area. And the expectation for what's going to happen in our communities here in Northern Lorain County is pretty crazy. I mean, they're expecting 1 million people to show up in Northern Lorain County to try to get a glimpse at this amazing, phenomena that's going to happen. So, look, if you're looking to make a little extra money in the month of April, Airbnb an extra room or two, or go stay with a relative, Airbnb your house. There is a short-term real estate investment hack for you. Thanks again, guys. Thanks for showing up. Listen, take care of yourselves. Take care of one another. I love you, people. See you next week.